Hello, everyone. How are you? So, today we talk about fours. The Enneagram is about halfway over. We are about halfway through the numbers, and today we will talk about the mysterious fours. They are known as the artists, the mysterious ones. They can be very melancholic. They can be wonderfully creative. They can be somewhat the victim. So they have a lot of really deep and complex parts. So the four is a very unique and interesting type on the Enneagram. So let's get into the quiz that we do at the very beginning. And again, you're going to mark the answer to the questions 1 through 5. 1 being seldom, not at all true. 2 is seldom true. 3 is somewhat true. 4 is generally true. And 5 is very true. So you're going to mark each question with an answer. 1, never true. And all the way up to 5 being very true about you. Okay? So here we go. 1. Many people see me as enigmatic, difficult, and contradictory, and I like that about myself. So many people see me as enigmatic, difficult, and contradictory, and I like that about myself. So mark that 1 through 5. Number 2, I tend to brood over my negative feelings for a long time before getting free of them. So number 2 is I tend to brood for a long time over my negative feelings before I get over them. You hold on to those negative feelings for a long time. So mark that 1 through 5. Number 3, I often feel alone and lonely, even when I'm around people I'm close to. They're the type of people that can be in a crowded room and still feel very alone. Yeah. 4, if I'm criticized or misunderstood, I tend to withdraw and sulk. Yeah. If I'm criticized or misunderstood, I tend to withdraw and sulk. They're not going to fight back. They're not going to argue. They're going to withdraw and sulk. So mark that 1 through 5. Not at all true or very true. Yeah. Number 5. I find it difficult to get involved with projects if I don't have creative control. I find it difficult to get involved in projects if I don't have creative control. It's very important to fours that they have creative agency, that they be able to be in charge creatively. 6. I tend not to follow rules or go along with expectations because I want to put my own special touch on whatever I do. I tend not to follow rules or go along with expectations because I want to put my own special touch on whatever I do. Again, it's about that creativity and that uniqueness. It's got to be very much about them. Yeah. 7. By most standards, I'm fairly dramatic and temperamental. By most standards, I'm fairly dramatic and temperamental. 8. I tend to spend quite a bit of time imagining scenes and conversations that haven't necessarily happened. I tend to spend quite a bit of time imagining scenes and conversations that haven't necessarily happened. 9. I long for someone to rescue me and sweep me away from all of this dreary mess. I long for someone to rescue me and sweep me away from all of this dreary mess. 10. When things get tough, I tend to crumble and give up. Perhaps I give up too easily. When things get tough, I tend to crumble and give up. Perhaps I give up too easily. 11. I can forgive almost anything except bad taste. I can forgive almost anything except bad taste. 12. Generally, I don't enjoy working too closely with others. Generally, I don't enjoy working too closely with others. 13. Finding myself and being true to my emotional needs have been extremely important motivations for me. So finding myself and being true to my emotional needs have been extremely important motivations for me. 14. I don't like either to take the lead or to be a follower. I don't like taking the lead or to be a follower. And 15. I am acutely aware of my intuitions, whether or not I have the courage to act on them. I am acutely aware of my intuitions, whether or not I have the courage to act on them. So go ahead and add up your scores. If you have anything lower than 30 points, you're probably not a type 4. 30 to 45 points, you most probably have 4 issues and a 4 parent or a 4 parent. 45 to 60 points, you most likely have a 4 component. And 60 to 75 points, you are most likely a 4. Which makes sense. Yeah. So the basic fear of 4s, the basic fear is having no identity and having no personal significance. They're terrified of not meaning anything, not mattering, of being nothing. They have a basic desire to find who they are and their significance in the world, and to create an identity out of that inner significance. And the sort of message that they tend to send themselves is that you're okay as long as you are true to yourself. That's what they tend to hear. As long as you're being true to yourself, you're okay, you're good. And they tend to, when they're healthy, they tend to sort of have this quiet strength and this endurance that is amazing. They have creativity and quiet endurance, and they can be an amazing inspiration to others, and they can do creative things and inspirational things that are just phenomenal. Unfortunately, they tend to struggle to find a stable and clear identity. They tend to long for someone to appreciate their inner selves, and so they're often searching for someone else to appreciate who they are inside. And they often feel as though no one really sees them or no one really appreciates their inner selves. And so they're often looking, they feel very different, they feel very other, very special. And so they often feel as though people don't recognize that inner self that they are. And they tend to have a fantasy self. They tend to create this or cultivate this fantasy self. And they don't feel as though most people see that real fantasy self, the real fantasy self, yeah, the real fantasy self that's inside of them. And one of the most difficult challenges they have is letting go of grudges from the past and old wounds. They tend to hold on to old wounds and hold on to grudges, things that have happened in the past, and they just hold on to them for so long and refuse to move beyond them and process them. And so those grudges just last forever. Yeah. And it's funny, if they lose those grudges, then they lose their identity as a victim, and that can be difficult for them. So they hang on to their grudges so that they can maintain that feeling of being the suffering victim, which is unfortunate. And because that victim status is actually what gives them that stable identity, and that is a part of their basic fear is not having a stable identity. So even though it's a negative identity, that of being the victim, at least it's what they know, and so they tend to hold on to it, and that's what's unfortunate. So it's important that they learn that you don't have to be the victim, and you can let go of that and hold on to other aspects, good aspects of yourself, and those can be more stable and healthier things to hold on to about yourself. They tend to feel abandoned or misunderstood by their parents, and so those feelings of disillusionment and loneliness start very early. They're considered kind of the lost child. You have the family hero. Well, fours tend to be the lost child, the one who isn't understood by the parents, isn't nurtured well, isn't understood, and tends to go off by themselves. They're the ones who paint their rooms black and have a very very withdrawn, isolated kind of childhood. They tend not to they tend to kind of play hide and seek with others emotionally. They will sort of pursue and withdraw constantly. It's like, come and find me, and I want you to seek me out, because then that means that you really love me. And so they're constantly hoping for people to come and seek out their true selves and find them. And if people aren't willing to put in the energy to do that, then the fours see it as a sign that they aren't really loved, that people just don't care. And so then it's proof that the fours aren't worthy. Then they feel like that's just validation that they aren't loved. Fours tend to love refinement and sophistication. They are the type to cultivate very artistic and sophisticated parts of their lives. They love things that are artistic and cultural. Some famous fours would be people like Bob Dylan, Anne Rice, Allen Ginsberg, Alanis Morissette. Edgar Allan Poe is listed as one. Johnny Depp, Sylvia Plath, James Dean, and Ingmar Bergman. Interesting. They tend to get into long-term self-destructive behavior if they are in the unhealthy zone. So people who do not find stable senses of themselves and who do not find a good solid core and are not happy with themselves tend to turn to destructive behavior. And they are constantly comparing themselves with others, and that can lead to problems with shame and humiliation because they always feel as though they come up lacking and they don't necessarily feel like they have a way to, when they compare, they always come up lacking. They never come up ahead, and so there's always that feeling that they are a failure. They tend to be obsessive and jealous in their romantic relationships if they're unhealthy, and they're often attracted to people who are unavailable, and so they will get into relationships with, for example, people who are already involved with others, or people who are in some way unavailable, and that creates this unfortunate cycle of unattainable romantic partner and somebody who simply can't reciprocate. And that again becomes a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, the fact that they'll never find true love or never find an available partner, somebody who can love them the way that they want to be loved. Yeah. Their identities tend to be based on feelings, and then because feelings are constantly changing, their identities are often in flux, and that can be difficult. They are often consider themselves special or mysterious, and this sort of makes them feel like outsiders, and that people generally don't understand them, and that they're somehow exempt from rules or laws or regulations. And so sometimes that can get them into trouble because they don't always obey basic rules and things. Like at work, they tend not to obey things like being late or being on time, or filing paperwork appropriately, or doing things that are basic rules that the rest of us feel like, okay, yeah, you just sort of have to do it. Fours tend to believe that they're somehow above or beyond having to obey those kinds of things, and it tends to get them into trouble. And they suffer from chronic loneliness. They don't feel as though anyone puts in the enough effort to come and find them, to find out who they truly are, and it leaves them feeling very alone. And they also believe that everyone else around them is very stable and happy, and that they are the only ones who are left on the outside. Yeah. They tend to spend a lot of time in fantasy, and they tend to dissociate a lot. They spend a lot of time dreaming about what life should be like and the fantasy world that they should have. And so they tend to spend a lot of time daydreaming and thinking about the way life should be, what they should have, and who can come and save them, the rescuers, the people who are going to come and rescue them from daily life, and what's going to happen to get them out of this drudgery. So they do a lot of time creating a fantasy self and creating a fantasy rescuers that are going to come and save them. Yeah. And if you question them, if you sort of question their decisions or question their choices, they will react with anger and hurt, and again further isolate. They will definitely withdraw and isolate harder and pull back. They aren't able to sort of see it objectively and listen to your concerns, they will withdraw and isolate, and they tend to see it as people are attacking them and being mean and just coming at them, rather than seeing it as someone having their best interest at heart. They see it as an attack. They tend to be, if they're in the unhealthy range, they tend to be self-absorbed and can ignore other people's feelings. And they tend to be passive aggressive about it. They don't, if they have a problem with someone, they generally won't talk to that person. They'll do everything around it, and they'll talk around the person, but they won't talk to the person they're actually struggling with. They'll talk to everyone else, but they won't talk to the person they're actually having the beef with, which is a problem. Yeah. And so, and they believe that everyone has let them down. Their parents, their friends. Generally, there's the talk is that everyone in life has let them down. Yeah. And they really want someone to follow them. You know, that when they isolate and they go off by themselves, what they really want is for someone to follow them into that dark place and say, you know, please come out, please come back, please come into the light. They want someone to follow them in and rescue them, and they wait. They are desperate for someone to do that, and the longer and further someone doesn't, the more they believe that they're not worthy of being saved, and the sadder and more isolated they feel. They give lots and lots of love tests. Oh, it's a constant love test. So they'll say things, you know, they believe things like, well, if you really loved me, you would do this, or if you loved me, you would do that. You know, if you loved me, you would know that I want this, or if you loved me, you would know that I want that. And so everything kind of becomes a love test. And unfortunately, they're unpassable. You know, the person who's the object of the love test usually cannot hope but to I mean, there's no passing the love test. It's almost, you have to be a mind reader, and so it's impossible to pass them. And so it becomes this vicious cycle of disappointment. Now, what can the four do to stabilize and to become healthy? One is to recognize that when you become isolated, you cut other people out, and that moodiness is a sign of your closed down self. And so you have to break out of that. You have to come back to others. When you see that moodiness happening and that isolation, you have to recognize it as shutting down, and you have to come back out to people and recognize that you are the one who is pulling away, and that you have to step back out to others and come back to people and not isolate and not pull away. And the other thing too is to work on accepting your amazing talents. You know, you have this creative energy, you have all of these artistic abilities. Embrace them, enjoy them, honor them, and see them for what they are. As your genuine, that's where your genuine amazingness lies. You know, it's not about your moodiness, it's not about your otherness, it's about your artistic energy and your amazing creativity. That's where your specialty is. That's why you're special. And just you being you. The other thing too is to make sure that you have honest friends around you, people who will be honest with you about who you are and what you are and what's going on, and will be frank about will be honest with you about what's going on, and say, wow, you seem to be isolating right now, so that you have some honest friends and people who will say it like it is, and kind of pull you back out when you start to withdraw, and not necessarily just coddle you. It's important. And you want to have some really sort of constructive and positive routines, things that you do that are regenerative and sustaining and positive. Things like going to the gym to work out, or going to the park and being outside, spending time with friends, things that are positive and routine and part of your kind of consistent daily life, doing self-care on a regular basis. You want to set up a routine so that you aren't necessarily moping or sulking all the time. You've got to set up these dates, set up these times so that you're doing routine good things for yourself. Whether it's drinking plenty of water, getting some exercise, going outside, meeting up with friends, positive people, going on trips, whatever it is that can get you into a good headspace. You want to set up routines along those lines. And you want to work on sort of accepting reality and accepting the fact that you are amazing, and that your creativity and your energy are a wonderful part of the Enneagram, and that you bring such artistic mystery and such, honestly, in some ways you are one of the more charismatic types, and people are just enthralled with you and love to watch you, love to spend time with you, love to be around you because you are so cool. And you really don't have to do anything to be that way. You just are. And so fours are really just fascinating people. And we love you. We love fours. And we are fascinated by you. And we love to spend time with you. And you just need to accept the fact that you can come out to us, and you don't have to hide. Yeah, it's not easy. Life's not easy. It can be a drudge, but the day to day can be made better if you make connections with people and focus on your joy. Focus on the things that bring you joy. Yeah, focus on whatever it is that is sustaining you. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and finding out about the fours. And next time we'll dip into the fives and find out what's going on with them. Please hit like and subscribe. That helps to grow my little channel, and it helps YouTube to continue to spread my videos, and others can find them, and I really appreciate it. All right, take care, all of you. All right, bye.